is an activity designed to help our PhD students to present their work in progress and for their doctoral thesis. In this sense, I would like to take the opportunity to recommend you, for the PhD students, a book that helped me a lot when I was a PhD student too. This book is called Guide for the Young Economists, and it's written by William Thompson, and it is very simple and very well pedagogical writing. Specifically, it has one of the chapters that is I think it's special for today, or for what we are going to do today. Is very interesting. Is about giving talks. It has 3 chapters: writing papers, giving talks, and writing reference reports. So I think it's also good for the not so young economists, but very young too, still too. Well, just if you are interested, you can find it in the library, and if somebody can read it in Catalan, I have some of them that I can give to you if you want it. So I strongly recommend it to you because I think it can help a lot. Well, let's go back to what we are doing today. Let's return to the activity. And we will start with 3 short presentations. As you know, we have 3 PhD students that will explain the idea of the thesis that they are going to do, or a chapter in process, by a very short talk. After that, we will have 3 standard presentations by another 3 PhD students. And finally, we will have a senior professor, Miquel Manjon, thank you for being here, that will give us a talk about his research. To finish, we will have, sorry, I have to tell that in between, at 10:30, we will take a short break to have a coffee and to talk together. And the idea is to finish around 12, more or less. We are not in a hurry, but around that time. Okay, so again, thank you very much for being here, and we can start with the first speaker, which is Jennifer Rojas, please. I forgot to say, sorry, that we have a novelty this year, that we introduced the figure of a senior professor assigned to every talk, who will try to comment the presentation and to make some questions, okay? So I hope this will help you more. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Up to you.
Okay. Bueno, mi nombre es Jennifer Rojas. My name is Jennifer. My topic is about what is the presentation?
To escape, and then you can find your way.
I don't know.
It's in the desk.
Where?
It should be there. No?
Ah, okay. My topic is about information and communication technology adoption strategies in times of COVID-19. A bibliometric analytics review. This is important because the COVID sent us a very problem in the education. The objective of my investigation is to identify the bibliometrics indicators on technology adoption strategies that already exist before COVID-19. The main overview, the social distancing caused by COVID all over the workforce, to find new strategies, new ways to keep the interaction with them in different ways. One way was using the TICs, or the information and communication technologies adoption. This study was applied the technical bibliometrics. This methodology applies the statistics to available research documents, which are obtained from a database in order to provide information on the existing literature. The bibliometrics is a new tool for researchers and is very necessary. It's necessary to identify the change between the different concepts related to technology. Rosenberg focused on theorizing the definition related to the use of ICTs, or information communication technologies. There are acquisition, where the individual remembers how to use the tool. The next step is adoption, when the user understands the operation. And finally, the appropriation, where the information is analyzed, evaluated, and created using new knowledge acquired before. That all works create the ICT models and new models, and there are many authors that talk about the ICT adoption models. The methodology of my work is quantitative, using the holistic bibliometrics. The stage where first select the keywords, in this case was a technology, adoption and strategy between 1985 to 2021. The second step was download the Scopus database. Here I was 216 articles, 57 conferences, 12 articles in review, and 3 book chapters. The third step was upload the obtained database to bibliometrics, and finally analyze and interpret the information for explain many variables. The relevant results es muy pequeña. I have different graphs. In these graphs, the results were the scientific annual production were increased. We can, in this year, the COVID provokes different investigation in the world. 2020 be the most productive year due to the pandemic. We can, the main country production was US. The resource Miss Quarterly is a magazine with the greatest impact on ICT. The most referenced document is the written by the author, no se puede ver, Srinivasan and J. Mark. And the main keywords are technology, technology adoption, and information technology. It's logical, but we have another words in the word. The conclusion: the bibliometrics offers a solid base to guide the researchers. It helps to identify the main keywords. The trend indicates the ICT adoption will continue increasing. Strategic and competitive vision to develop the capabilities need to deal with the different and unexpected adversity. And we can see bibliometrics is important for the researchers. It's very easy to use, and it's necessary acknowledge this this tool. And that's all.
Okay, thank you. Yes.
Just one remark. Have you considered scale the number of authors that you have in your previous slide, if you may?
In the result?
Yeah, the upper right-hand graph. You have the number of authors, is that?
That?
Yeah. I suggest you rescale that by the number of researchers. I mean, by default, no matter what words you use, you're going to find, you know, US and China probably being the largest. By simply because they have more researchers.
Yes.
So you should rescale that, but that will give, I don't think it will change very much, but at least it will give you a much more realistic picture.
Normally the researchers are working in different countries, but here the majority in the world works in companies on universities alliated or united with USA. For this reason, the country that have many investigation is in this case US.
Yeah, but still, my point is, look at the smallest one you have is South Africa, just 15. But
yes.
How many researchers you have in South Africa in total? 100? You look at the United States, you have 163. But how many
yes.
researchers do you have in the US? 10,000.
Yes.
You see, so you need to scale, divide by the number of researchers in the country.
Okay.
Okay? Or some proxy, I mean, I don't know, population or whatever, you see?
Okay.
So that will give you a much more accurate idea of how important is each country in this research, I guess. Okay?
Yes.
Because otherwise, I mean, China and the United States will be always on the top, but simply because they have more researchers. So more researchers will mean more publications.
Yes.
Right? So it's harder to get a publication from South Africa than from the US. That's my point. And you need to, you know, rescale that, I guess.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes. No, sorry, actually it's me who was in charge of giving you some advice from a topic which I know nothing, no, because but that's also something that I'm going to advise you. If you are going to present this type of, when it's finished, this type of work in a normal conference, you probably are going to face the problem that most of the people you are going to speak to know nothing about bibliometrics or this type of tools. So it would be good in general, not maybe today because it's short presentations, but to devote some time to explain what this is about, because people, maybe people here don't know. So that's, no, I know. It's like, I know that today is your topic, you have like, but it's just some advice. But there's another thing. I was a little bit confused about the title, because you're explaining, in the title was something about COVID, right? About
yes.
Technology during COVID. Would not be more nice to have the same bibliometric approach done with data before COVID and after COVID, or during COVID, in order that we can compare how this has increased or have evolved in COVID times? Because as far as you know, you have like this, okay, I understand that you have this trend and you see that the point, but later you have also some pictures about research documents, that probably would be more nice to have it no, before and after, or to see how this has changed. I mean, what has it, because technology, IT adoption is something that you have before and after COVID. So what COVID had made change to these things? So in order this, probably it's more related to the point of your paper, no? In order I have the idea that COVID has made a change on this. So I will have to have more clear how these things have changed, no? All these pictures that you have here.
Okay, my thesis is about the adoption technologies in the higher education.
Mm-hmm.
This is a part of my thesis, is the literature part, and I have another result mm-hmm. for my thesis, with my thesis. But my thesis, I'm interchange student. Mm-hmm. My thesis is qualitative. Mm-hmm. And in this case, the economic is the quantitative methodology mm-hmm. and different. Mm-hmm. But I have results about the before and after. Mm-hmm. Yes, but now I can show because it's I working now in this.
That's another thing, but it would be nice also is once you have made all this effort to give a look to all these papers. If you are going to work on this, you have identified what are the key papers and this thing. To give a look to these papers, if you plan to to use this precisely for the things you are going to say, this is useful. That is like you have identified proper things. So now to read these things in order to use these things for your own work, right?
Okay.
But okay, the presentation you have said. I mean, in terms of the presentation. The slides were good, but the only problem is size. It's like it's too small.
Okay. Thank you.
Just very briefly, you have already actually mentioned it, but it would be nice that at the beginning of your presentation, you somehow contextualize the concept of technology, because I mean technology applies to all different fields, and you know you didn't mention in which area you did your valorimetric analysis. You suggested something about higher education, but you know, to put some value on your numbers, your figures of 200 something, so I can tell you, because I work in technology, that you could find maybe even hundreds of thousands articles on technology adoption, because it applies to every single area in economics, even in business or in education. That's so science in general. Okay, so to just contextualize what you're doing, just start. So my interest is in technology in the field of higher, you know, I don't know, teaching, higher education. I don't know, whatever you do that, because I don't know, because you didn't even mention it, and that could just give us a sense of, you know, if that it's a lot of or not or whatever. Yeah. Because what is your area of interest?
My area is in Mexico. Is a strategic planning and
so it's business
technology
related?
direction, but I have a second title or diploma in here. For this reason, my thesis is qualitative, but is the complement with the quantitative area in the literature. For this reason, well, my specialty in my thesis is the teachers. It's in the teachers, how they adopted the ICT in the COVID. Is the special object for study.
So it's in the field of higher education and provision of, I don't know, training or...
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next speaker is Noemi Ramirez. Thank you.
Okay. Hi, good morning everyone. So today I will present the idea of my first paper. It's about the ecological footprint balance. It's international analysis and drivers. So, well, my supervisor is Antonio Duro and Julia Lovchuk. So for this topic, well, as you know, what I had took this image about this ecology bottom line would be maintaining the natural capital. So that's one of the motivations I had, and along with my supervisors. So the motivation is just to address international quantitative analysis of interest in order to give guidance on the strategies and policies and to solve some of the current problems that we have, which is that the anthropogenic pressures on the Earth system, the human activities are increasingly influence Earth's climate and ecosystem, and also the resources harvesting and waste generation deplete nature faster then it regenerates. So with this in mind, I would say to use this metric, which is the ecological footprint. And so you're familiar with this concept. What the ecological footprint measures. It's well, I'm focusing on the ecological footprint consumption, which is the consumption of biocapacity, which is the endowment of the world, and then by the country's inhabitants, right? So this is to calculate the ecological footprint consumption. It's the addition of the ecological footprint production plus the net ecological footprint of trade, right? So in this case, we do consider the import of ecological footprint, and we deduct the exports. So this is the concept. And in the literature, there are more. I just put 3 as an example. So in the literature review, there are a lot of studies about the ecological footprint, but they usually use only ecological footprint or ecological footprint per capita. And then they use some methods as to measure the inequality by Gini index or the Lorentz asymmetry, some other methodology that I'm not going to use in my paper, because I'll let you know what my approach is. So this is what I review in the literature. So in order to do this analysis about this ecological footprint and the drivers, what we notice that, as I said, that most of the studies are focused on the ecological footprint or ecological footprint per capita, but they're not considering the biocapacity, right? So there are 2 metrics: the ecological footprint and biocapacity, which nowadays it's taking more importance about the biocapacity as well, because the way it's managed is also determining the natural capital, right? So biocapacity is the endowment or the resources that the countries have. So in this case, what we are doing in this paper is just take the ecological footprint and divide it by the biocapacity. So we have the ecological footprint balance. So that's the metric I'm focusing my study on. And to do that, obtaining the data from the national footprint and biocapacity accounts, which provide the required and all the ecological footprint analysis worldwide. So this it's very quite consolidated, and then I can get the information from the for both the ecological footprint and the biocapacity. So this study covers 110 countries from the period of 1995 and 2018. That's the most current data, 2018. Just an overview about the balance, which I already mentioned, is the ratio between ecological footprint and biocapacity. So I took these regions from the World Bank, and as we can see, most of the regions have like a deficit balance, except for Latin America, Caribbean, and Sub-Saharan Africa. If you can see, I also took just 3 years as an example, which is 1995, 2006, and 2018. And they both are negative numbers. Their deficit is higher nowadays, except for North America, which is same as it was in 1995. Even when in 2006 there was an increase there. So this is just an overview worldwide, and going deeper in the topic, and just to do a better analysis, we were trying to focus here in the two methodologies, which is the tail index, which will measure the inequalities, and the Stirpin model in order to measure review the drivers, right? So we want to merge, or we're doing the merging these 2 approaches. And we choose the index because it has this ability or this property that we can actually decompose it and find the difference between the groups and within the groups. So that's why I'm using this index. And the striped model will, as I said, just to measure, to analyze the drivers and the environmental input. So this is the tape index, which is I'm considering the ratio between ecological footprint and biocapacity, and with this methodology, with this index, we're trying to review the global inequality and considering the biocapacity. So in this case, the C1 it's the relative weighted capacity of country I, and then the logarithm of the weighted average of the ecological footprint balance divided by the ecological footprint of country I. So that's the general formula for the Daily index, and this is how it looks like globally from 1995 and what was supposed to be until 2018. But as you can see, there's homogeneity except for 2026, where there's a little bit like a peak there. But if you see the scale is not that. See, it's from 0.42 to 0.46 kind of. So it's kind of homogeneous worldwide, and well, that's what we are viewing here in this analysis. And then, as I mentioned, this decomposability property, where you can we can review the difference within the groups. So this is the total tail index, and then we have these two parts within the groups and between the groups. So then we will be able to make a better analysis. So I'm going to skip to the results. So here, as I mentioned before, I used the worldwide, the World Bank subgroups, which is we wanted to see this difference between the groups, the World Bank groups, and within the groups. Means in this group, what is the difference? What is the inequality within the group? So this first result is that so this area, the dark blue, it's the within result, and the light blue is the between inequality. So we can see that from the within component, it goes from 53% to 43% in 2018. And the between goes from 47, which is this one, and until 53. So in this case, there's both. There's equally importance between the within and the between group, the within component. So we have in a policy implication, there should be equally important. And just to complement this study, the idea is also to have this multiplicative analysis, where we're going to consider the ecological footprint divided by the GDP divided by the population, and the population divided by the biocapacity. So this is something to be done, but this is that we have this in mind. And what you know that we still have to do this stirpat model. So this is to analyze the drivers, and because well there are many. It's a debate, right? Like, but we all know that the environment is dramatically changing, but then there is no, or we have limited knowledge of the specific forces that actually driving those impacts. So in order to analyze the drivers, we're going to use this methodology, which is the stirpat model. So we will consider the affluence, which is usually measured by the GDP, urbanization, and endowment. And the idea is that we finally use the estimated dynamic panel models in order to do this analysis. And well, here are some references. Thank you. And do you have questions? Comments?
Okay, I have one. I mean, I think I already told you, but I think one of the novelty of your paper is the dependent variable, right? This ratio, this balance that you got. So I think that for everybody it's very natural to have ecological footprint, because we understood that, okay, to have a high footprint is bad, to have a low footprint is good. But with this balance, I'm not so sure of the interpretation. I'm not so sure because it's not that natural, so I'm not so used to these things. So it would be good to lose some time to think exactly what the balance, what the ratio means. So what does it mean to have a high ratio or a low ratio in terms, probably in terms of I was going to say climate change, but I'm not saying climate change, but sustainability, right? This is what I would like to understand exactly what does it mean, the ratio. What does it mean to have a high balance ratio or a low? Okay, countries may help, right? To have several countries, we start to understand how the thing is moving. But it's not that natural, so that probably will give value to your paper, no? Like the idea to understand good what this measure means, right?
Yeah. Also, well, I'm doing some analysis about like because we have like the ecological footprint divided by biocapacity, but we can actually see when we have both numbers if it is due to because they have a high ecological footprint or because they have a low biocapacity. And for example, one of the ideas, for example, the States, the North America, the reason that I found there is that the US, they have kind of the same ecological footprint over the years, but currently they have a higher biocapacity. It could be explained by different factors. One of the reasons is that maybe they are intensive in agriculture or intensive in their field. So that might be one of the reasons that's, yeah, I do have it in mind. And I also would like to do this analysis between the which one is due to like a high ecological footprint or because they have a low biocapacity. But yeah, thank you.
Yeah, my question is similar to Alex. For example, when in the first expression in your presentation, which are the units of measure of this ecological footprint? And what kind of footprint are you including? Because we can think about, for example, water footprint, emission footprint, natural resources. So everything is there in this expression. And in your analysis, in the database that you mentioned and you use in the analysis, and a similar question, the ratio between ecological footprint and biocapacity, for example, in the world, you have put 3 values in 3 years: 1.3, 1.6, 1.7.
Yes.
How is the interpretation of that? So, for example, in the last year, 1.7 means that the footprint is
higher than the biocapacity.
Higher, but again, which are the units of measure of this? And at one point in your presentation, you have put environmental impact. And is this synonymous to ecological footprint or not? So, and also in your presentation, you have put groups. And I think that you haven't defined what groups are. Okay. Are groups of countries, groups of, I don't know. In summary, what I think that you need to clarify is, from the very beginning, for a non-familiar researcher or person that is listen to you, what are you in fact doing? What are you measuring?
Okay. So I didn't add I only have the concept as ecological footprint, but I didn't include what it's in there, right? So yeah, it's measured. Well, it's measuring global hectares. So what this means is that or this group that makes this metric is that they take this 5 land uses, land uses, which is forestry, build-up land, fishing, carbon footprint, and
water probably, or no? Water?
Water no.
No, it's not water there.
No, water is not there. They are kind of including it in the fishery land use, because that's what they included there in the fishery, and they also have the cropland. So they take this, like for example, fishery is not measuring land, but they translate this. They have some methodology that they would translate it in global hectares. So that means that in order to accomplish or to what the people demand, how many hectares are needed to use, or how many hectares the people use or consume, and so that's what they use as a measure, global hectares.
So it's a physical, are physical units.
Yes. Yes, and then they consider everything with the 5 land uses. And then environmental impact, it is, that's what I wanted to, or what I focus on, because at the end, if we are taking from Earth or the biocapacity more than it can regenerate, there is an environmental impact there, because there are not enough resources to cover people's demand. So that's why I added there, and also the groups, yes, it's countries, and I say that it was from the World Bank, but it's this regions. It's divided just by different countries in every here, right? This World Bank region. So then you have the different countries which are more geographically defined. And as you mentioned here, that in 1.3 to 1.7, yes, so if the resources or the biocapacity was equal to the ecological footprint or what the inhabitants are demanding from Earth, then that would be 1, right? But if it's demanding more than what the biocapacity is, or that or beyond the not only the biocapacity, but the speed that it regenerates, then it would be a negative number.
So, for example, in 2018, the ecological footprint is 70% higher than okay.
Yes, and compared to 1985, which was 30% higher.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks. Any other questions?
So just kind of a follow-up on that, because for an audience that is not familiar with all these concepts, I'm a little bit confused. So what you're suggesting, to some extent, if I understand you correctly, it's that the ratio is kind of how much you can pollute with respect your actual figure in polluting, So which means that, for instance, in North Africa, they don't really create a lot of footprint, pollute a lot of, but as they have this very poor kind of land, and so it's a little bit counterintuitive, isn't it? I mean, what you're trying to say, so you can pollute a lot if you actually if you
get imported.
I mean,
if you get imported too, that could be one of the things. I mean, it's not an autarky, right? It's not like like there is a trade, there is imports and exports. So even like in Middle East, where they don't have a lot of land, but they pollute a lot, they import it from other countries, which might be Latin America, right? Where they have like this, they have more biocapacity. So it's just to see over time how it's behaving, who is demanding more or less, or if it is they are improving their biocapacity, or is it that they are improving the amount of ecological footprint. So it's kind of...
Yeah, but in policy terms, so your advice would be, you know, as long as you can, I mean, as long as you can pollute, just feel free. Isn't it? I mean, I'm just saying, I'm going to stop here, sorry. But I'm just saying, if your measure is actually one of your assets, you know, just a way to put it, then you really want to explain what, you know, it's the meaning of it. And not just technically, of course, but also conceptually, because at the end of the day, what you want to do is change things. So you have to implement policies or give advice in terms of something is wrong. So what actually, you know, it's because these figures over here would say, well, just, I don't know, do something with the Middle East and North Africa, and the United States, it's doing, well, that's not that bad, okay? So, I don't know, it's just counterintuitive, so that means
ideally is to have one, right? So,
yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, but yeah, thank you. Any other question?
Okay,
Well, thank you.
thank you. The next speaker is Claudia de los Santos Díaz.
Good morning, my name is Claudia. I'm in the very beginning of my research project, so thank you for the opportunity of sharing my research project with all of you that is about diversity management as part of a social sustainability approach. So this research project arises from the need to contribute to the social dimension of sustainability through diversity management. It's a demand also made by the United Nations with the establishment of sustainability development goals, like those goals related to the elimination of discrimination and inequalities. Even when the legal regulatory context of, is made for diversity and there is a pressure on social report, on sustainability report, all these are based on quotes, in knowing how to do it, how to manage diversity from a social sustainability. So this has led to diversity management in organizations being approached from more in a business-oriented case and not on a social dimension orientation. So diversity is also highlighted in the Best Place to Work report of 2002 in Spain, where this report called for diversity in organizations, like the main challenge, one of the main challenges that facing organizations in Spain today. So for this, the need to investigate how diversity management is related to social sustainability approaches and how this can be measured through social sustainability indicators. So our research project is made by a compendium of articles. Well, the first idea of the first article is to conduct a systematic and interactive literature review to explore diversity management as a means to contribute to social sustainability. The idea of this paper is highlight the social need and the social condition that can be made through diversity management. That social need that we can fulfill them with diversity management in organization. We also want to identify the diversity management practice indicators and approaches in current literature. So this is the idea of the first article. In the second article, it was carrying out an exploratory study when we are exploring the meaning of social sustainability and diversity management through the management and employee perception. This will carry out in organizations social-oriented and not social-oriented, and we want to also have in count like the forms or organizing of this organization, like the hierarchical, the traditional hierarchical organizing, or the self-management organizing. The idea is to make a comparison of this meaning on this type of organization for contributing to how to design an organization with a social sustainability approach in the future. The third paper, we use a quantitative method. We think use this structural equation model for analyze the relationship between the diversity management practice and the well-being of employee as an indicator of social sustainability, as one of the main indicators for social sustainability in organizations. And this we carry out in the same organization of the paper 2. So we also want to compare this relationship between different type of organization in our study that contribute to social sustainability. So, like, we are working in the first paper, and we are using the systematic and integrative literature review. We make a hybrid methodology, like we using Transfield methodology and Toronto and Hamilton methodology. We carry out 3 searches. The first search was integrating diversity management and social sustainability. The second was integrating diversity management and sustainable human resource management. And the third was integrating diversity management with corporate social responsibility. These 2 searches was done because diversity management can be conceived in organizations like a strategy under the umbrella of corporate social responsibility, or can be seen as a policy integrating human resource management. So this integrative literature review led us to make this pyramid where we can see at the bottom of the model the identification of diversity social needs. We use the definition, the principles, and the dimension of social, in the literature of social dimension, social sustainability, for identify that social need where diversity management play a fundamental role in fulfilling. The social need can be seen like integration, inclusion, social capital, social cohesion, or others like social justice. Then we can, in the literature review, we identify the practices that are currently in organization through these 2 integration, diversity management with corporate social responsibility and with sustainable human resource management. So these practices are ranging from fair recruitment and selection of employees. Sorry for the size of the slide that you can see, you can read. And for example, employee participation and involvement and networking. Then we identify the indicators. This study of indicators we divide into type of indicator. Indicator of effectiveness, like the quotas and quotes analysis, and the impact, direct and indirect impact. In this middle of the pyramid, we have the indicators that are currently in literature that measure the effectiveness of diversity management in organization. And then we identify some social impact that we divide in social dimension oriented, that's like, for example, quality of life, employee well-being, social justice, work-family balance, that there is an indicator of social sustainability. And we divide the other indicator like business-oriented, that there is this indicator that measure diversity management in an organization at the level of organization. Like, for example, employer development results, reduce fluctuation, improve corporate image and corporate employee branding. So, with this systematic and literature review, we want to make a call for the change of paradigm and move toward a social sustainability orientation. And for that, organizations have to implement diversity initiative based on social need and not on external pressure for contributing to social sustainability. So this is so far my investigation. So I will appreciate the feedback. Thank you.
Questions?
Yeah, from a totally ignorant guy, I probably missed some bits of your presentation because that was fast. Okay, you spoke really fast. I wonder, I mean, why diversity management is going to impinge on sustainability? Because I have in the back of my mind this paper saying that, you know, the presence of women in directions and so on helps sustainability because women, psychological studies show that they have different principles and goals to men, and they are, you know, more inclined towards sustainability. That makes sense. But why diversity will pinch on that? I mean, why having people from different ethnic backgrounds will, you know, change the orientation of the company towards sustainability goals? What is the reason behind that?
Well, in this case, we don't analyze this the why diversity management contribute to social sustainability. Well, yes, but let me.
I just wonder what is the mechanism that is behind that? Okay, I can accept that.
Yeah.
Your claim is diversity management should help sustainability. Okay.
Yeah, but it's a social sustainability.
Social sustainability.
Yeah, we were going to forward to this report on quota analysis. We want to analyze the social needs that diversity fulfilled.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I definitely didn't miss some parts.
Yeah. In social sustainability, the definition is promoting quality of life, is promoting integration, inclusion, is promoting like human diversity a long term. So diversity management in organization can contribute to this social sustainability, and we want to analyze how organization approach this diversity management to a social sustainability. Is our main research. Okay.
So, walk it over.
Okay, thank you. So your hypothesis is that it will be more efficient, kind of a within motivation to include it, instead of imposing externally some sort of behavior.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's if I understood you correctly.
Yeah.
What you're saying is that you have to realize to your firm that if you introduce all these different, let's say, this different management style, actually you will end up privately, so it's kind of selfish. You will be better off in terms of what are your goals, which is, I don't know, produce something and get some benefits and so on. So what I didn't see in your presentation is that you actually do that. So you measure in terms of payoff for the firm. So you're actually saying, so that will impact the well-being of your employees and so on. So you measure the benefits of changing your management style in a way that you introduce more social sustainability, which actually comes from, you know, the pressure, you admit it, comes from the, you know, outside the firm, okay? But you actually didn't, you know, set up, so put forward a kind of an hypothesis why firms should care. Apart from, you got to be socially responsible, okay? You mentioned it's been directed, this idea, through social responsibility, but you said, no, I don't like that. I like it better that you should do it. But why? Because a firm, at the end of the day, is just an institution that the goal, well, we could discuss that, I admit it, but one of the goals, at least, is to make some profit. So don't you want to introduce that in your setup and saying, okay, so, and could it be a better way to talk firms into changing their management style? Because all the management literature, it's usually about, if you do that, you get some payoff in terms of what? In terms of productivity, efficiency, whatever. But you didn't do that here. Is that something that it's...
In the second paper, we want to explore that what organizations conceive like social sustainability and for what they do social sustainability. So we want to explore this idea of social sustainability in organization and why this organization we will want to change their approaches like social dimension or business oriented.
Yeah, but sorry to interrupt you, but your basic repeat setup is extrinsic versus intrinsic motivations. Okay.
Yeah.
So I mean, you may want to explicitly use these intrinsic motivations in terms of what? So in terms of relate, correlate. I don't know. For instance, job satisfaction through social responsibility, and that could be a mechanism that will impact your productivity or benefit. So,
yeah. I understand. Thank you for that.
I also have a question, maybe I missed that information, but in general, well, as we know, SDGs are the goals of the United Nations, and they were set in 2015, and the deadline that they must fulfill these SDGs are in 2030. So do you have any period that you are going to see these, or you have a deadline, or you may go beyond that 2030?
No, we want to do it like in this time. Like
in 1 year or?
2 years. I have 3 years for doing. Yeah.
Okay.
Some more questions? Okay, thank you.
Well, now we finish with the first part of this act with the short talks. I would like to say to the 3 speakers that we have had that thank you, because you did a very, I know it's not easy sometimes to make a talk in just 10 minutes. So you did a good effort on that and you succeed. Thank you very much. And we start with the regular talks. Now, Amariotti, you're first. Thank you. He's before you. I'm sorry. Sorry. But you can put it if you want.
No, yo tengo uno, pero no sé qué tiene. Ahora puedes cambiar eso.
Sorry, Samson.
All right, good morning, everybody. So before I delve into my presentation properly, I would say thank you to the ECO-SOS committee and chair for giving me the opportunity to intimate my colleagues and every other researchers in the room about what I've been working on in URV. So the topic of my presentation is entitled A Systematic Review and Future Research Agenda of Ethnic Entrepreneurship. So this is just a systematic review of...
Close the door.
Oh, okay. So this is just a systematic review of what I've been working on, so which is on ethnic entrepreneurship. So before going into the presentation properly, I think I would like to give a background story into what actually gave impetus to my research. I think in 2017 I got this master's scholarship, which was the, in quotes, the popular European Commission Erasmus Mundus master's scholarship. So it afforded me the opportunity to study for 2 years in 3 different European countries. So then I had to move from different countries. I think I did about 3 mobilities and an internship. It all started at the Universitat Rovira de Barcelona, and that was between September, December 2017, where I did my 4th semester. So it lasted for about 3 to 4 months before proceeding to the University of Oslo in Norway. So there I was in Oslo, Norway for 6 months. So before my summer school in the University of Malta. Thereafter, I got an internship in Dubai. So I was in the United Arab Emirates for another 3 months for my internship. So the scholarship program is entitled Education Policies for Global Development, a proper sociology, course. So while I was doing that, though I had personal passion for entrepreneurship, because I love to set my own, do my own thing in terms of business. Of course, the goal aim is to, make profit. So while I was doing that, I found it difficult that your passport could actually like limit you. You could be very smart, you could have a lot of great ideas, but where you actually come from as a way of making an impact into your progress. So then I remember when I was supposed to go to the United Arab Emirates for my internship. So I had to fly back from Norway to Nigeria, which is my own country, to get my visa stamped. So I was like, well, my other colleagues, they could just like travel for same 90 days that was meant for my internship. So it began to like give me a lot of problems. Okay, what about if I want to like venture into business in a country that is not mine? So what sort of difficulties am I going to face? Would my contemporaries do better than me just because of my place of origin? Then I begin to have this sociological imagination, sociological perspective. Before then, I never knew there was a concept called ethnic entrepreneurship. I never knew it even existed. But while I was having that sociological perspective, imaginations, and via literature reviews and searches, then I came across ethnic entrepreneurship. So then, while I was doing my master's, then I'm like, okay, if I would be opting for a PhD, it would be nothing less than entrepreneurship. So this is a background story of what actually led to my research. Yes, introduction and concept definition. So ethnic entrepreneurship, for me to give a proper comprehension into what the concept is all about, as you can see on the slide, there's an enterprise that is tied to a certain cultural group or people of same descent. Migration is becoming, in fact, it's a global phenomenon. Any government of a country, coming up with different policies must sort of put migrants into consideration. That's the space we are now. Why? Because the world is a global village, and for us to really thrive as a country, you'll be short-changing or marginalizing yourself if you're just only focusing on people or just citizens of your country without considering migrants. Because migrants actually constitute a huge chunk of a country's population. So ethnic entrepreneurship is a chunk of a population, that is people delving into enterprises, but they are people of the same descent. Okay, now let me give a more clearer perspective into it. Here in Tarragona, we have a lot of Pakistani shops, we have a lot of Chinese shops. Okay, these are ethnic entrepreneurs. They are doing business, but within that social network, within that ethnicity, which is different from the norm, which is different from what actually thrives or obtainable naturally within the sphere of entrepreneurship. So, entrepreneurship, there are three major focal points that actually guide ethnic entrepreneurship. Number one is opportunity. Why do migrants go into entrepreneurship? A lot of them see it as an opportunity. Opportunity to make more money, opportunity to invest and have a lot of yields. That's why a lot of people, first of all, venture into entrepreneurship in a foreign land. And number two is necessity. People do that as a point of necessity. Why? Because in the workplace, they don't really have a very good fair share compared to the real citizen of the country. For instance, let me use the EU as an example. We have a lot of laws. Spain, for instance, the Spanish government can't just promulgate laws without considering the EU, which is the ground norm, which is the guiding law that actually supervises everything in the EU. So there is a common law in the EU in terms of trade, in terms of mobility, in terms of healthcare. So which makes mobility really easy, which make investment. There is Erasmus, which make education also easy. As a European citizen of a country, you can study in different European countries. There is this synchronization, there is this synergy. So which makes it so easy, for them to really thrive, within that continent. But as an immigrant, you coming into a European country, you don't have a fair share. I would say a fair share from the sociological perspective, like the real citizens, the actual citizens of a particular country. So you just need to delve into entrepreneurship as a matter of necessity. Why? Because you think, okay, since I don't have equal and an absolute opportunity like my contemporaries from that country, then the only option for me is just focus on entrepreneurship within my social network. So that's why a lot of people go into entrepreneurship, a lot of migrants, and some people also do it for survival. As a foreigner in a country, definitely you need to legalize your stay. So a lot of people see it as an opportunity for me to, like, okay, if I invest in a country, then I can tender my case to the government. I say, okay, now I want to stay, I want to be more profitable in your economy, I want to invest. So by that, people do it for survival. So that's the only option you have. So that's when it becomes survival. When ethnic entrepreneurship becomes the only source of stay in the country, then it becomes a survivor in that regard. So these are the research objectives and questions. Number one objective, with respect to this systematic review, is to describe, periodically track the number of scientific production from 1989 to date. So number two is to determine the scientific journals and countries with the most scientific publications in the spectrum of ethnic entrepreneurship. So number three is to determine the 10 most cited articles and also propose future research. But in order to bring this into fruition, so there are two guiding questions. So the number one question is, what are the most imperative research articles, journals, and authors in this spectrum? So how are these scientific production sectionalized in terms of geography and volume? Now, the methodology. So what I adopted is the PRISMA framework. So the PRISMA means preferred reporting items for systematic and meta-analysis. So it's a framework that is very common when it comes to adopting or doing a systematic review. So my source was Scopus. Okay, that's actually the database that I adopted. So the keywords that I use in searching for the literatures, number one is ethnic, and number two is entrepreneur. So the records I identified first of all when I put in the keywords are 208 document results. During the screening, there were no duplicate records. So a lot of times there are duplicate records. But why I do not really have duplicate records there is because I'm only subscribing to a database. So if I had adopted maybe Scopus, Web of Science, or other databases, so there would have been reason for duplicate records. So after exclusion, so what I did when I was doing this exclusion was I only focused on just fully published articles. Fully published, so books, book chapters, conference papers were excluded. So that gave me about 76 documents that were excluded. So at the end of the day, so I settled with 132, which is the final result of the documents adopted for this research. So this is the analysis in terms of volume, in terms of growth trajectory by year and decade. So volume by measurement by decade. So from 1989 to 2002, so there were fully published articles in the field of ethnic entrepreneurship. The second decade, we have 2003 to 2012, there are 47 articles published. Then the third decade, 2013 to 2022, which is now, we have about 67 articles. But in terms of growth trajectory, in the fourth decade, which is 1989 to 2002, we have about 161.11% increment. Then in the second decade, though we have a lot of papers published in the second decade and the third decade, but the percentage increase was lower than the first decade, which is 42.55%. So as you can see, in 2022, which is now, we have about 11 papers, fully published papers in the spectrum of ethnic entrepreneurship, which is 11. In 2021, we have 4. In 2020, we have 7. So down to 2013, which we have 18. So according to the analysis, the 10 most cited articles in 1989, immigrant entrepreneurship, effect of ethnic market size, and isolated labor. This still remains the most cited articles in the field of ethnic entrepreneurship, with a total of about 179 citations. So in 2002, we have motivations and performance conditions for ethnic entrepreneurship, which is also very well and much cited in that field. We have about 132 citations. So down to year 2000, in search of ethnic entrepreneurship opportunities in the city, a comparative policy study. So these are the 10 most cited articles. in the field of ethnic entrepreneurship as a whole. So the most impactful journal and author. So I just have to streamline this to tables so for easy comprehension. Journal, we have entrepreneurship and regional development, a number of 6 articles. Entrepreneurship and small business, we have a number of 5 articles. And we have the Journal of Business and Globalization, which is 4 articles. We have the Children's Boards, Economics and Social Geography, a number of articles of 4. And we have entrepreneurial behavior and research, which also have like 4 also. Then the author, the most impactful author in the field of ethnic entrepreneurship is Miquel Manjon. So he's a professor of economics in the Netherlands. He has about 5 fully published articles. We have Mosrel Eno 3, Bojo Sonia 3, Pure Edwina 3, and Wang King Fang 3 also in the field of ethnic entrepreneurship. So these are 20 countries with the most publications. The United States, okay, just like you rightly pointed when one of my colleagues was presenting, so the United States always comes first in the number of publications. Why? Because of the size, because of the number of researchers, the number of scholars we have in the country. So followed by the United Kingdom, we have about 26. We have the Netherlands, 11. I mentioned an author the other time, which is Miquel Manjon. It's from the Netherlands. And a lot of scholars, a lot of professors in the spectrum of ethnic entrepreneurship are usually from the Netherlands, especially in Europe. We have a lot of them researching in that regard. And we have in Canada. In Canada, we have like 10 publications. In Germany, 8. So what we can sum up here, in terms of territory, is that in the European country, we have a lot of scholars, a lot of researchers and publications in this regard. Followed by the North America, the United States, then followed by the Asian countries. And the list is Africa, yeah, because I think Brazil, okay, falls under South America. And so it's in that order. We have the European countries, then followed by the North Americans, then Asians, then before Americans. So in the order of hierarchy in that regard. So future research in this field, discrimination and access to finance. So I said that a lot of research still needs to go into this point. The second one is the role of social networks and community support in the success of ethnic entrepreneurs. According to my research, I said that a lot of literatures didn't really address the role of social networks and community support in the success of ethnic entrepreneurs. So another aspect that I think research team goes into is the examining the impact of government policies and programs on the ability of business to thrive. So a lot of governments do not really focus on these migrants, these ethnic entrepreneurs. So a lot of policies a lot of all those business policies focus more on the citizens and not programs that are specifically for these ethnic entrepreneurs. So in that regard, a lot should go into examining the impact of government policies and programs on the ability of business to thrive. So another is identification of best practices for supporting and fostering the growth of ethnic entrepreneurship. The last one in terms of future research is developing new theoretical frameworks for understanding the unique challenges and opportunities. The major framework that is usually talked about in ethnic entrepreneurship is Klosterman mixed embeddedness story. So Klosterman is also a scholar from the Netherlands. So a lot of literatures in ethnic entrepreneurship refer to his work, to his model, to his framework. So in this regard, I found out that new theoretical frameworks needs to be developed in understanding the unique challenges and opportunities in this field. So the limitation. So one of my limitations is the non-adoption of multiple databases. So I think I should have adopted more databases because I only limited it to just Scopus. Maybe I should have adopted Web of Science and other databases to actually give more nuance to my result. And the choice of keywords and methods. My choice of keywords was only limited to ethnic and entrepreneur. So I think more keywords would have given me more results and better papers. So the last limitation which I say is, I only limited it to only fully published articles, fully published papers, and excluded conference papers, book chapters, review papers. So I only limited it to fully published articles, so which I think is a limitation. And probably should have given room for conference papers and other units of papers. It would have given more nuance or make my results really robust. Thank you very much.
Any questions?
Okay, so thank you very much for the presentation.
No.
I was just, I feel that it is very important to do a systematic review of the literature, but perhaps you have done it and you have not explained, but I would I have missed perhaps a deeper analysis of perhaps how this literature has analyzed, for instance, the different characteristics of the ethnic entrepreneurs in comparison with those that they are from our country, and also how they differentiate between the way of measuring the different databases. So perhaps a wider review in order to try to complement the future research agenda that you have proposed. That I see that which is quite interesting.
All right, thank you very much. So that's taken into consideration already.
Okay. No more questions?
Very quickly, I'm sorry if I just missed the whole point because I don't know about your topic. But I wonder if it's important to differentiate between the sources of entrepreneurship. You said, so what I mean is an entrepreneur is someone who's trying to bring to the market something different, or kind of a, or exploit some sort of asset or singularity or something. In the case of you basically focus on immigrants.
Exactly.
Okay, which is because so the distinction between immigrants or recent and so what I mean is that for instance the Chinese or the Asian community in here. That will be an example of ethnic entrepreneurship, isn't it?
Exactly.
Because, for instance, restaurants.
Exactly.
Exactly. Okay. But then it's quite different from recent immigrants with all the issues related to even legal, status in here, working permissions, stuff like that. With these more consolidated communities that may even be second, third generation, and so what I'm trying to see is that, for instance, it's similar this Asian, Chinese, or wherever community that can make well, not a huge investment, but they have access to financial resources to just I don't know, for a restaurant or whatever. With, for instance, these communities coming from sub-Saharan Africa that are just selling stuff, So that will end up in the same kind of a classification, ethnic entrepreneurs.
Awesome.
But I can, I don't see how you can mix them. So I mean, all these things. Because you talk about survival and so on, but to some extent, this idea of, so we are talking about immigrants, or we're talking about diversity in our societies. I mean, so our societies become, for instance, the percentage of population from a background either born abroad or with a different background from the country where they live. Okay, for instance, in Reus it's about 35%. So it's a change. So that creates a whole different field for the flourishing of new business and so on.
Exactly.
For instance, I don't know, just for instance to provide this community with some sort of goods and services that are particular to them.
Exactly.
But I didn't see that in here. It seems that you're focusing very much on recent immigrants, survival, and that is important. I don't know if this distinction is important.
Yes, I think for this review, I think I'll just probably focus on the works that have been done so far within that prism of ethnic entrepreneurship as a whole. Though there are other papers of mine that I just focused on what you actually mentioned. So before the presentation, like at the very early beginning of the presentation, I talked about 3 drivers that actually like propels ethnic entrepreneurship anywhere in the world. So I talked about opportunity, I talked about necessity, and I talked about survival. So probably maybe I'm emphasizing much on the survival. So you talked about the Asian community, which are not necessarily here to survive. They are here because they saw probably a gold mine, metaphorically, to make more money. So they fall under that category of opportunity. The Asian community, they fall under that. So we have those of necessity, and we have, just like you already draw an insight from, okay, people from sub-Saharans, maybe people just that just came into the country even without papers, through illegal means, they are under the survival. So we have opportunity, we have necessity, and survival. So that's it.
Okay, thank you. Thanks.
So, hello everyone, thank you for being here. I'm Amariti Tomori. Today I'm going to present my first topic as a PhD candidate. I want to say thank you to my supervisors, Professor Manuel Jimenez Gomez and Alejandro Perez Larroda. So this is my structure of this presentation. I'm going to talk a little bit of motivation for this topic, briefly to review my research questions, some data and the conclusions that I got until now, because this paper is still work in progress. The motivation, of course, that we are living here, and as I was reading, the importance of tourism industry in Spain was very high, because it takes 14.3% of Spain's GDP. COVID-19 was the pandemic that we passed, but we are still living with this situation, and the tourism industry is one of the most affected industries in COVID-19. And of course, I chose camping tourism as a new kind of tourism. It's not very popular, but here in Spain we have a lot of provinces that we can find a lot of differences during the COVID, before COVID, during the COVID, and after COVID in this kind of tourism. Some literature review that I chose for today, it's of course related with the COVID, with camping tourism, and also with the resilience that I'm analyzing. And one of them is Nicola 2020, that identified the tourism industry as one of the economic activities most affected by the pandemic worldwide. And also another author defined the resilience as the ability of a system to maintain and adapt its essential structure and function in the face of disturbance while maintaining its identity. And also I found two other articles that are from Professor Juan Antonio Duro that are similar, that they have the similar way that I'm working it, but they are working in another kind of tourism. So, my two research questions are, which is the distribution of camping resilience across the provinces in Spain, and also how does COVID-19 affect the camping tourism in the provinces of Spain? The data that I got are secondary data from National Institution Statistics. I got data for overnight stays in campings. I chose 40 provinces because in the database it's only 40 provinces. We don't have data for all provinces for the camping tourism. And I have data from 2019 to 2021. Also, the indicators that I use in the empirical analysis are like this: is the resilience, the total overnight stays from July to October 2020 and 2021, divided by the total overnights in 2019. The domestic market, the relative share of domestic camping overnights from July to October 2019. The population density, the number of inhabitants of a province, divided by the province surface of all provinces. And also I use two dummy variables. The first one is related for the north provinces, which takes the value 1 for the north provinces that I got. I don't have all the data for all the north provinces, and 0 otherwise. And also the interior, the dummy variable, which takes 1 for the provinces that are not in north and also that are not in coast, and 0 otherwise. With the data I got, I created these graphs with the resilience. With the blue color is the resilience 2020 and the orange color 2021. I created 3 different graphs. The first one is for the north provinces, and as we can see in all graphs, the resilience 2021, of course, is more higher because the restrictions of COVID were off, so the people were allowed to travel internationally, and also the provinces of Spain were allowed to welcome international tourists. But we can see that in the north provinces, in Cantabria, we can see that in 2020 the resilience were more higher. This could be that the people were not allowed to move in this part, and also the data we have is like summer data, and in the north part we can understand that there are not a lot of tourists in this period. And of course we created two different maps that we can see the resilience. If we can see the legend with the resilience, I put the minimum, the average, and also the maximum. If we compare, like we can see the difference, it's a very high difference between 2020 and 2021. But another difference, if we see the colors from 2020 to 2021, the provinces with higher resilience are different. So this means that of course the COVID-19, the people were not allowed to move. They had a lot of restrictions, but also the international tourists they were not allowed to come here. And let's move in the empirical part. We used to do two different regressions. One for the resilience of 2020, and the other one for resilience 2021. And if we consider the coefficients, all of these values are expected from us, but the one that we can see and after we can compare is the domestic part, which is a high number for high value for 2020, which 1% of domestic market is going to be 0.79% associated with the resilience. So this is also for the north and the interior part, we have negative coefficients. Also, they are expected from us because the data are for part of summer, and we have not too much tourism in this area. So this is the regression for 2021. if we can see the domestic part, it's more lower comparing with 2020. This means that the tourists are moving internationally. Of course, the Spanish provinces are waiting more international tourists, but the domestic, the people in Spain, I think that they chose to go abroad or to try new experience and to live this kind of innovation, or let's say this new thing for them. They actually could try in the part of COVID because they didn't have restrictions, they didn't need to put a mask, they didn't have the social distance in the camping tourism, but after the hotels were open, they're starting to live like normally. And also in this regression, we try to put both like two periods, 2020 and 2021. But here we add a new dummy variable, which is year, which takes 1 for data 2021 and 0 for data 2020, just to see if we have any big difference in our variables. And what I can mention is, of course, the domestic part, which is with red color, which is a big difference from 0.779. We can see like a negative coefficient, which is minus 0.5. Of course, let's conclude that COVID-19 affected the camping tourism in 2020. The domestic market changed after the recovery from COVID-19, of course, and the summer of 2021 improved the results globally. Until now, these are the results that I have and the conclusions that I have. So thank you very much.